On this episode of Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery, I'm going to talk to you about how I use my V2MOM to do my year-end planning and go through exactly how I use it.
Running a successful fee-based financial planning business is tough, and escaping the shackles of a commission-based financial planning practice is terrifying. When all you want to do is learn from those who know, learn from financial planners who are there on the front lines doing it each and every day. What if you could just open their kimono and take a look inside to learn what works and what doesn't? Now there's a place where the secrets to running a fee-based financial planning business are revealed to those who believe. Fee-based financial planning mastery. Ease your mind.
Hi everyone, it's Scott Plaskett here, and thanks for joining me. In this podcast, you will learn what's working and what's not in the world of fee-based financial planning. In each episode, I'm going to open my kimono and let you take an insider's look at what's working and what's not in my practice to help you take your business to the next level. I've been a fee-based certified financial planner since the early 90s, so believe me, I know the challenges you're facing. So get ready to learn not from a teacher, coach, or guru, but from a colleague who's on the front lines just like you. And I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my email internet newsletter to get the most up-to-date tips on how to build and grow your fee-based financial planning practice by going to feebasedfinancialplanningmastery.com. Hey everybody, I just wanted to go through a little bit of what's new with me. Well, first of all, I don't have a cold. My voice, however, sounds horrible. And it's just the nature of the beast at this time of year. My carrier monkey kids, they seem to bring home whatever bug is going around. And anyways, I feel pretty well. I feel pretty good. I played hockey last night. Hopefully, I was hoping that would sweat it out. But anyways, woke up this morning and my throat was just raw and raspy. So if I sound horrible, I apologize, but the bottom line is the show must go on. So I just wanted to give you an update on what's going on. Basically, what I wanted to tell you is that I'm going to be, this will be the last show for the year, for the mid-December show, and then I will be back mid-January. I'm going to be taking some time off during the holiday season, just to take a break and spend some time with my family and whatnot as well. But keep in mind, there will be some pretty exciting things going on at that point, because I do have some exciting news that I'll be sharing with you through the podcast and through some emails and whatnot that'll be coming out probably in early January. So if I can get all my ducks in a row, then that will happen. But if it doesn't happen, then it, believe me, it will be coming along, and it's been what everybody's been asking for. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. So stay tuned, and hopefully we'll be able to start the new year off with a bang. And it's really been nice though to just have spent such great sessions with you over this past year. It was January of 2012 that I started this podcast, and didn't know where it was going to go, didn't know how it was going to go, I was kind of embarrassed about it. I didn't want to tell anybody about it because here I am talking about my opinions on the fee-based financial planning world and the financial industry in general, and just all of a sudden, I did that, and was able, just the communications I'm getting back from people saying thank you and how much they're enjoying the show and how much they're enjoying the topics and the content and all that sort of stuff. It's just been a wonderful experience. And, this hobby that I started back in January has just been a lot of fun. So I wanted to thank you all for that, and wish you all the best for the holidays. I know it's, the snow hasn't quite come down where I'm at up in north of Toronto and Caledon. But the bottom line is it's on its way. And I know the ski hills are trying to make snow as much as possible. I'm a real skier, so I'm anxious to get on the hill and just start some of the racing. I do some ski racing every year as well. I'm in a house league program, and that's a lot of fun. My kids are racing, so they're going to be doing some traveling this year with their racing. And it's just, really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to spending some time doing that. So anyways, stay tuned for a lot more. And over the holidays, have a wonderful holiday season. All the best to all of you and yours. And I look forward to getting back to you in the next main episode starting in early January.
And now for our feature segment.
At this time of year, it's really important to sort of look back on your year and make sure that it basically unfolded the way you'd hoped. And if it didn't, to take a look at why it didn't and what you can do about it going forward, because it's really the fuel you get, or the energy you get from taking a look at what you've done, is what can fuel you into moving forward and fuel you into either making some decisions about making some changes in your business, how to move forward. Really it's all about just analyzing what worked and what didn't, and how to go forward. Now, the tool I use for that is a tool that was really brought to the marketplace. I guess it's actually not really brought to the marketplace, because it's just a tool that Mark Benioff, the creator or the founder of Salesforce.com, in his book, he talks about what he calls his V2MOM. And V2MOM, it simply stands for, V2 is the two V's. So vision and values, and then the MOM is methods, obstacles, and measurement. And basically, it's a tool that just allows you to put in one very clear way your outlook on what you want to have happen over the next, period of time that you're doing it for. And in this example, I've done mine for a 12-month period. So what I wanted to do is, I was starting to go through and update my V2MOM from what I did back in January, and I thought, this would be a perfect time just to go through this with you guys, just to basically say, look, this is what I'm doing, and walk you through the process that I went through for, first of all, developing and putting together my V2MOM, and then talk to you about some of the successes and the percentage towards of the goal that I was able to accomplish and whatnot, and just go through it and sort of go through step by step on what ideas you can put into it, and then hopefully encourage you to put your own V2MOM together. Because I found that when I did this, it really just popped off the page, and it gave me a certain sense of clarity that I really didn't have before. All right, so with the V2MOM, again, what I've done is I just took a mind map. And I put together I've got a mind map, which is basically my year and at a glance, so to speak, and it's got all the different components to it. Now, the one component that we're talking about now is a V2MOM. All the other components are just other things, like all the strategic projects that I want to work on for the year, all of the ideas that I've come up with throughout the year, some things that I can do to, protect my confidence a bit, like getting rid of, cleaning up some certain messes that are in my life, or delegating certain things that I want to get rid of. So I've got, a big mind map that has all of that built into it. But the focus for today's episode is on the V2MOM. And so what I did 12 months ago, I went into the V2MOM and I said, okay, I really want to get clear on my vision. I want to define what it is that I do. And really, it allowed me to put into a very simple, either paragraph or a few sentences, what it is that we do for our clients, what it is we're here for, and what it is that we're doing. And, it just gave us a sense of clarity, and it's a tool that we can now use to, I can show my staff this, and I can say, listen, this is what we do, and this is what we're all about. This is the vision that I have, so I want to articulate that. And you can put anything you want there, but really, I just want you to sit down and think about what it is you want to be doing, what it is you do, you feel you do. For me, I basically put something like, it was we're a fee-based financial planning firm using a fee-based financial planning process that we work through with all of our clients to assist them in making great financial decisions so that they can move, closer to accomplishing their financial goals every year. And so that sort of gives the vision of what we're in business for. Our purpose is simply to work with our clients. How we work with them is through the fee-based financial planning process, and our unique process that we've created. And we work with them. We work with every single client. There's no exception. Every client is going to works through our unique process with us, and we do that so that we can help them, make better decisions, so that they can feel like they're building their confidence and moving closer to accomplishing their financial goals. And it really puts the focus on them. And so that was really my vision. And so I said, okay, well, what does it mean for that vision? What will it mean for that vision to come together? And really for me, I said, okay, well, number one, I need to have a certain amount of revenue. This is my vision will be accomplished when I've got a certain level of revenue. And so basically you just go in there and you can put your different revenue. And what I did was I said, okay, my total revenue is going to be X. But that revenue is going to be broken down into three components. The three components are going to be the financial planning fee revenue that we generate. It's going to be the investment fee revenue that we generate. And it's going to be the revenues that we generate from insurance. So, I was able to break that up and say, okay, well, let's take a look at that. And I, have the luxury of having historical data that I can turn back to, and I can take a look at what our growth rates have been and what I'd like to do. And I can just, and then I make a really big educated guess on what I'd like to have happen going forward. So I did that. And, it was very interesting when I started updating it to today. When I was going through the update, I said, okay, on the financial planning fee revenue, I had a goal of X and my goal was Y. And as a result, I looked at it and I said, that was 94.5% of my goal. So I almost attained that goal. So I was really proud of that. I was really happy that, I sort of shot that number out there 12 months ago and said, okay, this is what I'd like to have happen. And let's see what we can do to make it happen. And sure enough, we're basically 95% of the way there. So I was really happy with that. And on the investment revenue, again, I took a look at it and said, okay, this is what our revenue is right now. This is what I'd like to see it grow at. And so this is what I'd like to see happen. And sure enough, we hit 87% of our goal. Now, remember, I take big strides. I take big steps forward. I want, heavy growth. So the fact that I'm hitting, 95% of my financial planning fee goal or 87% of my investment revenue goal or even, 60% of my insurance revenue goal, well, that just, it doesn't tell me that I failed necessarily, because at the end of the day, when I added everything up and said, okay, of the total goal, the total revenue goal, where was I in total? And basically I was 94% of my total top line. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, why is it the difference? You've got the 3 different revenue streams. Well, what we did throughout the year was we actually sold a portion of our investment book. We recognized that there were a handful of clients that would be better served working with an advisor who, had different relationships in place, because most of the relationships, are actually all the relationships we now work with, have certain minimum levels. And so we just couldn't continue necessarily working with a certain level of our clients at the level I wanted to. And so I said, it's better to hand those clients over to another advisor who can really focus on it and give them the service that they deserve. And so as a result, we sold a portion of our book. So what ended up happening was because we sold a portion of that revenue, now our revenue stream actually dropped a little bit, but we received compensation for selling that portion of our book. So at the end of the day, we basically hit 94.3% of our top line goal. And so that, that makes me very happy. I'm not hitting the 100%, but you know what? I don't think you ever do. I think when if you did hit the 100%, and if you go much beyond 100%, then it just means that in my mind, your goals weren't big enough. So always make sure that you're striving for bigger goals. Give yourself a stretch, make it so that it's a real stretch, because this V2MOM is going to give you the exact tools and direction and information on how to get there. So, so from the top line goal, results were great. So that's what you want to do. First of all, is say, okay, what do I want my top line revenue to be? I developed that number through looking at the components of our revenue and saying, okay, if we've got these 3 different components of our revenue, what do I want each number to be? And I was able to then go back and take a look at the history to see what kind of, what our percentage breakup was, and just sort of make some educated guesses on that. So I did that. And so I'm really happy with that. The other thing that we put in there was I wanted to make sure that the vision, not only was profitable, but also had a vision that I want to focus on a team-based financial planning process. So I want my business to be a team-based practice. I don't want it all wrapped around me. I don't want to be that hub and spoke business. I want to make sure I've got other team members that I can turn to, that our clients can turn to, so that they don't just see the business as me, they see the business as the business. So I wanted to make sure that all of our clients, so what I put down here was all of our clients, I wanted to make sure they had a relationship with our company and not just with me. And, clients, we've gone through and we've ranked our clients, our, A clients, B clients, C clients, everybody does that in their business. And I said, I want to make sure that the B and C clients were really being managed by the team. I want them to really have that experience, that they're being managed completely by the team, and that I'm there if it's necessary. But, once the plan's in place, then I want them to be seen that they're being managed by the team. Our A clients, I'm very involved with the A clients, and I always want them to see me at this point. But I want to make sure that they're also aware of how the team is there to support them. And so, what I do along the way is I make sure that when requests come in of me, and I know it's a team member request, it should be something that a team member is responding to, I'll forward that to my team member and say, okay, hey, can you get back to so-and-so with the information they're looking for? And so it just helps to train those clients that, hey, for that type of information, focus on the support staff. don't necessarily go to Scott. So so that worked out really quite well. I was happy with having that focus, because along the way, that was one of the things that gave me the idea that, what, I probably should pass on a certain portion of our clients to an advisor that can better service them at the level that they require, because that was just, it all came from recognizing that I want to have a team-based approach. And then, I mentioned here that I wanted to still have review meetings with my A clients and, some of our B clients. And really what I've done for this year is I maintained our A and B client meetings. And it was the clients that weren't A and B that we moved on to another advisor. And anyways, it worked out really, really quite well. And my clients are, we've had great meetings this year, made some changes to the investment solutions that we've been using, because of some research that we've done that just, made us recognize that there were some better solutions out there that just had more tools in their toolbox, and there were lower cost options and had more control, better transparency. And so we started making some major changes there, and clients are just loving it as a result. Our meetings are really, really positive. Everybody's saying thank you for bringing these new solutions to the table, and they're really happy with that. So that really takes care of the vision side of things. So on the V2MOM, the first section is vision, and it's really where you sit down and you define what you do. So use my template as a bit of a model. If you want, just go onto Google and just Google the term V2MOM and see what comes up, and that might give you some assistance as well from what Mark Benioff has put together. He's never formalized any sort of approach necessarily, but he does talk about it in his book. And when I read it, it made a lot of sense to me. The second V is dealing with values. Now, what you want to do with your values is you want to prioritize, you want a list of prioritized principles and beliefs that you are most important, that are most important about the vision. Okay. What I call your immutable laws. So, prioritize everything. So what you want to do is you want to sit down and say, okay, what are your beliefs? What are your fundamental laws? Well, here are some examples of what I put down. I said, okay, number one, all leads and clients have to be managed through our financial planning process. So nobody is going to come into our business and work with us within our firm unless they go through the financial planning process. All client goals are going to be tracked through their own financial plan. So we're not going to have sort of the piecemeal approach. We are a comprehensive financial planning firm. And so we want to focus solely on working with our clients through that. If they don't want that from us, then they've basically hired the wrong firm. If they want to just buy investments, or if they just want to buy insurance, if they just want a product, then you know what? They've come to the wrong place. So we just make sure that one of my laws is that all client goals are tracked through their own their own financial plan, and all of the clients and prospects are managed through the financial planning process that we put together. I also want to make sure that we have an exciting client experience through each component of our financial planning process. So, I've spent some time looking at this, and it's an area that I've identified that I want to spend more time on in the new year, is taking a look at every aspect of our financial planning process to make it just a really exciting experience for clients, to do things that just blow them away, and it doesn't have to be big things, but I just want to make sure that they really feel like, wow, this is an amazing experience. And so I just want to spend some time with my team and go through every component of the financial planning process. And, you can imagine I've put together a big mind map that outlines all of this that I'll be making available to you in the future. And basically it outlines our entire process. So I can actually look at that and say, okay, how can I make meeting 2 a better meeting? What is it that happens pre-meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting? What is it clients are looking for at that point? And what can I bring into that meeting and sort of build into that process that just make it a wonderful client experience? And I can do that for every component along the way. So that's one thing that we definitely want to focus on as well. And so again, we're talking about the values here. Another value is that we only align ourselves with the best. So what that simply means is I'm not willing to settle for second best on anything. So when I, have a relationship with an investment counseling firm or a specialist of some sort, I want to make sure they are the best I can find. So we only align ourselves with the best. All extensions of our services are offered through our Top Guns network. So basically, if somebody doesn't qualify to be part of our Top Guns network, I'm not going to refer to them. I need to make sure these people are the best in their chosen field. I'm not a mortgage broker, but I want to find a really, really good mortgage broker. I'm not a lawyer, but I want to find a great lawyer that can always do the job efficiently, to the satisfaction of clients. Anybody I refer to, I want to make sure that they're really top quality. And so what I do is I ask my clients, if I've referred somebody, first of all, I track it on our system so I know exactly who I have referred out. And then I can go back to the client afterwards and say, so what was that experience like? And some really interesting things come from that. You can have a great relationship with somebody, but all of a sudden you ask your client, well, what was it like? And they say, well, I didn't really have the greatest experience. And, here's why. And that's a real eye opener, because you're not going to get that. You're not going to hear that information from the people you're referring to, because they're not going to want you to know about it. But when you go back and ask your clients, it does two things. Number one, the clients say, well, wow, I'm really impressed that he followed up on that to see how the referral went. That's really impressive. And number two, that's going to make them much more honest with you, because when you say, listen, I want to make sure that the relationships that we have are really adding value. And so, your experience is important to me. So just let me know, if anything ever goes wrong, or if anything ever goes really great, please let me know. So those are the values that we put, or that I put onto our business. I wanted to make sure all of our leads and clients are managed through the financial planning process that we follow. I want to make sure that all of the clients' goals are tracked through their own financial plan. I want to make sure that the clients have exciting experiences through every stage of the financial planning process, and that we only align ourselves with the best. Okay, so that takes care of the V2. Now we're going to talk about the MOM side of things. Now, the MOM, again, the first M stands for methods. And really this is how to get it done. The action steps that you need to take to get your vision, to make your vision a reality. All right, so I sort of outlined a few things, and really it's just really what's important to you. This isn't really a template necessarily you can just take and apply to your business, because you may be at a different stage of your business. And so for me, I just said, okay, how am I going to get the job done? Well, at the time, this was back in January, I said to myself, okay, I'm only going to hire the best support team. Now, what happened? Well, I've got, one of my main staff members. She's awesome. Love her to death. She just handles everything. She's my rock. She's my superstar. She's just great. Now that, so that's a really positive thing. I've got a really great support mechanism there. I've hired some other people, some virtual assistants who are working out really quite well, and I'm very happy with that. Any of the consultants that we've hired, we hired them and have had, again, good results from that, and I made sure that I was pretty aggressive with that. I made sure that I didn't let them dictate things. I wanted results. And so everybody I talked to, I held them accountable. I held them to what they said they were going to do. And if they stepped up and did it, then it really showed me that they were a quality firm. And in every case so far, we've had that. So I'm really, really happy with how, hiring only the best support team has worked out. We've also recognized that we need a new hire. With all of the marketing that we're doing, I'm developing a lot of content, and I just wanted somebody to help manage that, because I'm still meeting with clients on a regular basis. I'm still doing all that alongside of all the marketing. And, we've basically put together, my goal is to put together an annual marketing calendar. And I just want somebody to be the second set of eyes on that, to make sure that nothing's falling through the cracks, because I'm able to develop the content, but it's the management of all of that I'm finding a little bit challenging. So I'm wanting to basically add that, and that's one of the goals and tools that we're going to be taking advantage of in the new year. Now, the other thing for us was, how are we going to get this done? How are we going to hit our targets? So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to market. And, I put a big emphasis on marketing. I'm doing the podcasts, and I thought, that to me made a lot of sense. I can start with the podcast, get the topics from that. And so we have our financial planning podcast that we do for, lead generation and credibility creation, and really just to get some good exposure that way. And so I really focused on that, and same sort of format that this show takes place. It's on the 1st and the 15th of each month. I was able to hit every single show that was required throughout the entire year. So I was really happy with that. And it's really starting to work, because we're getting, just like this, we're getting a lot of response. We're getting a lot of people subscribing to the show. We're getting a lot of results, and I find that it's something that's starting to gain some traction. So I'm really happy with that. We've got a lot of our online marketing programs, so whether it be some videos that we've put together or some all the social media stuff that we've been doing. Really, it's just, asking yourself the question, what are the tools that I'm going to use in order to meet my original goal of my vision, which had a financial component to it? So how am I going to hit that top line revenue goal? What am I going to do in order to generate those eyeballs on our website? What am I then going to do to take those eyeballs and turn them into leads by giving them a piece of content that they needed to subscribe for or register for, so that you can get their contact information. Then you're going to nurture those leads along. And so you can, again, I've talked about it before, where you can automate that whole process. And this is a whole topic in the methods section here, was all basically titled under automated marketing. And so I just outlined all the different automated marketing programs I wanted to take advantage of for the year, and then focused on those, and then just went into it and said, these are all the things that I need to do for each component, whether it be either video blog or blog articles or automated email marketing, or whatever it happens to be. It was just a matter of outlining what needs to be done, and then put that into your agenda and say, okay, if it's got to be a show on the 1st and 15th, or if it's going to be a blog on the 7th and 28th of each month, or the 1st and 3rd Thursday, or whatever it happens to be, well, you can actually just go in and start to map that out in your calendar, so that you can back it up and say, well, if I need to have a show produced or a blog produced on a certain date every month, well, then how many days is it going to take me? When am I going to have my writing time in? So you can just go in and you can pre-do all that. And pre-schedule it into your calendar, so that meetings don't get booked around it, and you just focus on that. So it's a really great way of doing that. So the methods, how to get it done, the action steps to take, really it's just whatever action steps you feel are necessary. And again, this is a tool that you don't have to just write once and then you never come back to it. I, throughout the year, would come back to it, say every quarter or so, and just take a look at it. Is the stuff that I put down here really, really what I want to accomplish? And are the tools that I'm using really, really working for us? And so you may change your direction at some point along the way, but the bottom line is you've got direction, and that's what's important. So that takes care of methods, all the methods that you're going to use. Now, once you've done that, you've got a real good sense of what it is you need to do. But what you haven't really done is you haven't said, okay, but what are the obstacles? What are the challenges, the problems, the issues that I need to overcome to achieve the vision? Well, for me, it was, if I was going to be doing some hiring, well, I've got the challenge of getting the new team up to speed and getting every team member so that they're autonomous. So that was something that I identified that I needed to do. If I was going to be really embracing, and this is something we tried, and it didn't work out as well as I had hoped. But if I was going to be bringing somebody else on to do, for example, my review meetings for me with a handful of my clients, then I need to make sure that there's a good client acceptance of the new review meeting format. And so these are some challenges that I had that I needed to put some solutions in place for. For me, it was just taking it to the next level and getting involved with some much more advanced estate planning topics and that sort of thing. And that required a certain level of engagement on my part to go out there and learn the new, more advanced technologies and strategies and whatnot. And so it took some effort. And so that was a challenge for me as well, is basically making sure that I was able to put the infrastructure in place so I could learn these new topics and see how they actually, work into our client affairs. And then the final one was a technology learning curve. So again, with all technology, there's oftentimes a learning curve. If you're bringing in new technology, then, these are some challenges that you may have. Well, for sure, with a lot of our online systems and marketing programs and whatnot, there was a big technology learning curve. And remember, I wrote this a year ago. So when I wrote this, it was like, okay, I want to do a podcast. How do you do a podcast? So I had a real technology learning curve that I had to go through. But this gave me the tools to say, okay, what do I need to start focusing my time on? So I became a student of online marketing. I became a student of all of these technologies to learn what I needed to do. I knew we needed to upgrade our computer systems, and I knew I wanted to sort of focus on Macs, but I didn't know exactly how to, because the challenge that we have is that, I didn't know at the time how to work on some of my like the financial planning software that I use is an Excel-based system. So I need to have Windows running Excel in order for that to happen. So how do I do that on a Mac? And so again, take it back to a year ago. I had no idea at that point, so I had to learn that. And so that was really just those were the obstacles that I had assessed, and then I was able to put some solutions in place to say, okay, well, if my obstacle is, the migrating myself to a Mac, well, how do I deal with that? Well, one of the solutions that I put down was I can go hire a one-to-one session with Mac specialists and really get them to get me up to speed on the system quickly. So I definitely, took advantage of that. And, but identifying the obstacles first is an important thing, because it's once you've identified the obstacles, now you have the list of everything that's standing in your way. So it's basically, if you just get rid of all the things that are standing in your way, boom, you're in good shape. Now, fast forward a year. Now let's take a look at my obstacles here. Is my team up to speed? Well, absolutely. I mean, my team is running more efficiently now than it ever has. And we're looking at bringing on somebody new, and we've got the now ability to do so and to get them up to speed very, very quickly. Have clients accepted the new review meeting? Well, that didn't work out well for us, because in the hiring that we did, we just weren't able to find somebody that was able to continue on and to do the review meetings properly. So that didn't work out very well for us. But bottom line was, it was something that we wanted to try. Some of the advanced estate planning that we've focused on, yeah, definitely that's worked out well, and that's something that I've been focusing on, and so I'm really quite happy with that. But the technology. That was a big issue. And right now, I mean, man, I can't imagine going back to a PC. I can't imagine it. The Macs are just working incredibly well. Very, very happy with them. Very happy with each machine that I've got, with the way that we've got them set up. It's worked out extremely well. So I can really say that the obstacles that we recognized at the beginning of the year, pretty much every obstacle, I've overcome that obstacle. And so now moving forward, when I do the next V2MOM for 2013, obviously, I've got other challenges that I'm faced with, and so I'm going to put those in there. So that takes care of the obstacles. And once again, the obstacles are simply all of the challenges, the problems, and issues that you need to overcome so that you can achieve your vision. So now measurement, and this is a very, very important one, because measurement is where you specify the actual results that you need to achieve. And I'm talking quantify them. You need to have firm numbers that you can use to say, are you on track? And they can be any numbers that are important to you. So for example, I knew my top line revenue goal. I knew what it was, and I knew what its breakdown was. So then I said, okay, well, if I'm going to work it backwards, then I need to get a certain number of new clients, averaging a certain fee level, and then based on that model that I put together. And so this is almost creating the ideal profile for a client. I knew that, by bringing on a new client, then they would be brought in. They had to go through the financial planning process, which meant they had to be paying a fee. So I, built that into the process. So I knew, okay, on average, I want those clients to pay a fee of, say $2,500. Okay, that's an average fee. Now, a lot of clients paid a lot more. Not very many clients paid very much less. But depending on all the what the service requirements were for those clients, that dictated what their fee was. So I knew I wanted to have a certain number of clients come in. So if I brought in a certain number of clients, that meant I was going to have a certain number of revenue come in for those for the fees. I also knew that if those clients came in, they needed to have a certain minimum asset level for me to be able to work with them completely. So by doing that, I said, okay, well, I know they're going to come in at least this level. So this means there's going to be a certain revenue coming in, fee-based revenue coming in from those assets. So, okay, what's that revenue going to be based on a new client? So we can map that out. And then the third thing was the insurance revenue. So what was the, just looking back at my history, what is the average insurance revenue that's generated from a new client when they come on, and we do a full analysis of their insurance needs and their life insurance and disability insurance and critical illness and long-term care, all this sort of stuff. On average, if we're bringing in a certain profile client that's at a certain age, they're going to need these certain, these particular tools in the insurance world on the living benefit side and the estate planning side and whatnot. And that tied right into my desire to get much more involved in some advanced estate planning strategies, which then tie into the insurance world, because there is some real benefit to be had from doing a lot of estate planning through the insurance world because of the tax benefits that are associated with insurance policies. So we've got that, put all that together, and I say, okay, if I can bring on a certain number of new clients, that means I'll get X amount of dollars in revenue from the fees, X amount of dollars in revenue on average for the fees on the investment side, X amount of dollars of revenue from the insurance side. So I can actually say, well, then I know my goal for the new clients coming in should be X. I also know the existing clients that I have, I know what kind of revenue that's going to bring on every year, because if everybody's on a fee-based approach, then we've got a certain percentage of assets coming in. And so I know what that's going to be. So I can really, by spending a little bit of time on those numbers, I can forecast it forward and say, well, at the end of the year, I expect I'm going to have this certain level of revenue. And then you can just map it out and say, okay, well then how many, if these are the methods that I'm going to be using to get these new prospective clients, how many leads do I feel I can get? How many of those leads do I feel I can convert into initial meetings? Of those initial meetings, how many of those actually become clients? And so you can start to really map out your goal for the year. And then when you've done all that, you can work it backwards and say, okay, then I need to have a total number of leads because I know my conversion ratios are X, Y, and Z. I now know how many leads I need to bring in the top so that I can end up with, call it 10, 20, whatever amount of number of clients you want to have, 30, 40, whatever. You now know what you need to do. And now you've got the plan in order to put that in place. So for me, when it came down to the number of new clients that I brought on, I brought on more new clients than I had expected. And the average planning fee, the average planning fee was actually a little bit lower than what I had averaged. And the reason for that, when I looked at the analysis, was that I brought on more people within a household. And so one of the services that we have is that when you're part of a household, we don't charge you an individual financial planning fee. It's a household financial planning fee. So that meant my fee revenue was down a little bit, even though I was bringing on new clients. And that's because they were part of a household plan. So the fact is I brought in more new clients than I had originally put in place, but my overall new client fees were down a little bit from the goal. Then with regards to the total, the renewal fees, and these are the ongoing fees for existing clients that come in year after year after year. Well, in that case, I was actually ahead of target. I met my goal and then some. So I was at 104% of my goal. So that meant that of the clients that I've been bringing on over the years, those client renewal fees, they exceeded what I had my goal was for those renewal fees. And so that was a good thing. So when I added up my total fee revenue, in actual fact, my total fee revenue brought me to, I think I mentioned before, I'm just going to take a look at my notes here. My total fee revenue came in at 94.5% of my targeted goal. So that I was really happy with. Now, on the other section was, again, because I broke down all the different revenue streams, I said, okay, I want to have a certain amount of revenue coming in with my investments. So we took a look at that and said, okay, well, so it just allowed me to do all that. Then what I did was I said, okay, of these new clients, now I'm starting to analyze the results, analyzing all the information, because I know now that on the, I was, 84% of the way there for my new clients coming in. I hit 84% of that revenue goal. I hit 104% of the renewal fee revenue goal. I hit 87% of the investment revenue goal, and I hit 60% of the insurance revenue goal. I said, okay, that's great. Now let's take a look at the clients that I brought on. Because that's really, every year it's those new clients that are being brought on that's where you can keep on elevating them to the next level. And then you want to make sure that obviously that you're servicing your existing clients, because a lot of the revenue that comes on when you're working in a fee-based practice is not one-time revenue, it's yearly revenue. And so keep that in mind that, after you've been in business for 1 year, now you pretty much have that full year is going to come in again just for keeping those clients happy and keeping them serviced properly. So I took a look at all the new clients that came in and I said, okay, of the new clients that came in, what were the revenues per client? And, so because I'm looking at this and saying, well, if I was starting from scratch, and I brought on 10 or 20 clients. Now, if I know that my average revenue per client is X, then that means that on average, if I'm bringing in 20 new clients, and I get an average of average revenue of X for those clients, then I can pretty much forecast forward and expect to have a certain top line revenue of Y. So I just analyzed that. I just took a look at all my clients that came on and said, okay, how much did I revenue, am I 12-month revenue am I generating from each of these clients in the first year, or in this current year that we're talking about? And so it's really interesting to take a look at that. And I tell you, when you go through and you start itemizing things like we've done here, and using the V2MOM, using the fact that it starts off with your vision, then you're going to start outlining what your values are and how you do your business, the methods that you do, how you actually get things done, what are the technologies and tools and strategies that you use, the obstacles that you're going to face, so you know what you need to spend your time on fixing and cleaning up and making sure that those obstacles don't become realities, and then measuring it along the way, using things like what I use, which on our Salesforce system, I have these dashboards, and I've keyed in some custom programming that on a weekly basis refreshes my dashboards and with current information. So, for example, I have some metrics that I follow, what's called a solvency report. And my solvency report is just simply something that says, look, if I look forward 2 months, what are my future 2-month obligations from a cash flow standpoint going to be? And then I take a look and I compare that to the amount of cash that I have in my bank account, or all the different cash sources that I have for the company right then and there. And I do a calculation, total cash divided by total obligations, and that gives me a factor. Now, for me, I've said, well, I want to make sure I've got a factor of at least 2 to 2.5. So that meaning I have 2 to 2.5 times my next 60 days obligations in cash. So that allows me to give every week, I have a certain sense of comfort knowing that, what's happening to that factor. If that factor starts going up and becomes, 2.5, 2.4, 2.3, I'm going the wrong way, 2.4, 2.5, 2.7, 2.9, 3, 3.4, 3.5. Well, that's telling me one thing. That's telling me that, hey, we're growing and we're bringing on some great revenues, and we're growing, and we're putting cash in the bank, and we're getting some profitability, and that's a good thing. It also tells me, and I've got it color coded, that if it gets beyond a certain number, I want the color to change to a certain color. So if it's red, that means it's below a certain point, and that's red means warning. Red's a caution. And so it gives me 2 months advance notice that, hey, wait a minute, cash may not be in the bank. We need to make sure that there is. If it's yellow, then that says, hey, everything's perfect. Just cruise along as normal. Don't need to do anything different or make any drastic changes. And then if it goes beyond a certain point, then I make it go green. And when it's green, that basically says to me, listen, when you're green, you're flush with cash. And so you've got to do something with that cash to make it work for you. You don't just want it sitting idle. So it means either reinvesting that cash into the business, reinvesting it into some investments that I've selected, or taking it out personally for some profitability or whatever. So it just gives me that sense of confidence in knowing where things are going. And the confidence really builds when you can start seeing the history. Because when I first started following this metric, my metric was red as soon as I started. Well, believe me, when it's red, it gets scary. And I didn't realize that because I wasn't following that metric before. But then when I changed to that metric and I started following on a weekly basis, and I have our bookkeeper every week, she updates our solvency report. Instantly, I can go and I refresh the report, and boom, I either get a sense of comfort or a sense of uncomfortableness. And if it's red, it tells me I've got to do something to get some cash reserves put in place. If it's yellow, then it says, okay, we're on track. We're moving along quite nicely. If it's green, I say, wow, that's great. It's green. However, I need to start making some decisions on what to do with that. Well, that could be where, expansion plans. Maybe that's now where you've got the confidence now that you've got cash in the bank. Should you want to hire somebody new, then it's not going to suddenly, deplete your resources, because then you're monitoring things. And you'll be able to see in advance if there's problems in the horizon. The other thing that I do when it comes to measurement is I use a tool called, tool or concept or whatever. It's basically called Profit First Accounting. And what it is, it's just a different methodology for tracking your business. And I do it on a monthly basis. Some people do it on a weekly basis. Some people do it on a bi-weekly basis. It's whatever number is most important to you. Weekly, I think if your business is a business where regular cash flow is coming in and it's sort of on a week by week basis. For me, I just sort of summarize it on a month by month basis. But what I do is, it's a cool technology that allows me to make sure that profits are coming to me first. And when you think about it, think about it this way. Why did you start the business? Did you start your business, or are you wanting to start your business simply because you want to help people? Well, that's called charity, and there's nothing wrong with that, but charity only lasts so long when you can't pay your bills. Really, what you're starting your business for is that you want to make some money, and you want to do it in a way that is, ethical, and you want to do it in a way that adds value. The more value you can add to your clientele, the better. Well, for me, definitely profitability is a key factor. So I want to make sure that if I'm starting a business, that I'm not just creating a job, I'm creating a business that's generating profits for me. So what do I do first? I take my profits as the first thing I do. So every top line revenue that comes in, whatever it is, whether it be $1 or $100,000, I personally, I would recommend you do the same. Start off taking no less than 5% off the top. 5%, even 10%. I'm at the point now where I'm taking 20%. Take it right off the top. Move it into a separate account and keep it in a reserve account. That comes right off the top, and then you run your business on the net, on the 80% or the 95% or whatever. So if you have $10,000 coming in and you're running it on a 5% profitability number, then you're going to run your business off of 95%. Then you take that 95%, right off of that, you take off your payroll. Not the payroll, but your salary. So you need to make sure you get paid, because if you don't get paid, the business doesn't stay in operation. So number one, start at the top, take off your profit first, then pay yourself your salary. Then from there, pay your fixed expenses, which are things like staff salary and all your rent and leases and all that sort of stuff. Those are the things that you can't avoid. Then from there, take off and pay your variable expenses. Now, what that does is it allows you to see where problems are in your business. For example, if you have $10,000 come in and you take off your 5%, there's of that $500 that is moved into a special account. Great. Then you take off your salary. Call that $2,000. Okay, now you're down to, what's that? 10. You're down to $7,500. So $7,500 left. And then you say, okay, my fixed expenses are $8,000. Oh, okay. Well, $8,000. That now exceeds what you have on cash that came in. So now that tells you, wait a minute, you know what? You might have a problem in your fixed expenses. You may be carrying too many fixed expenses. So monitor that. Go back and check out what your profitability analysis is on a historical basis, because maybe you've got a problem in your fixed expenses. Maybe you don't. Maybe it comes in and says, okay, my fixed expenses are $5,000. Therefore, I've got $2,500 left over to cover my variable expenses. Great. Your variable expenses are $4,000. Oh, wait a minute. That puts you into a loss. Well, okay, you know what? Then right there, that tells you that you may have variable expenses that you need to cut. And so you want to get in there and slash and burn as quickly as you can. Because if you don't do that, you're going to run into problems down the line. So it just allows you to manage your business from a financial perspective that gives you warning signs along the way. It's an accounting methodology. You can't not have your business run from the normal traditional accounting principles. But when you manage your business, you've got to do it from a side of things where it makes sense to you, where the numbers are actually making sense to you. Well, it makes sense to me that you want to pay yourself first. So definitely pay yourself first. Take your profitability right off the top. If you can do it, if your profitability at the end of the day, you're saying that you've got a lot of money left over, well, you know what? Take 10%. Take 15, take 20. Your goal would be to get to a 20% profitability. 20% of every dollar that comes in goes right to the profit account. Then you pay your salary. Then you pay your fixed expenses. Then you pay your variable expenses. If there's still money left over, great. Then that gets carried into the next pay period or the next business period. But now you can see you've got a business that's thriving. So if you start seeing that you've got a lot of profits at the end, then just keep increasing your profitability. Now, that does a lot of things as well. If you ever wanted to sell your business in the future, and you can sit down and say to the person who's looking at buying your business, hey, take a look at my profitability analysis. This shows that you're able to generate a tremendous level of profit on this. Well, that means the business is worth a lot more on a multiple basis. So there's a lot of good that can come from that. So definitely take advantage of the V2MOM. Go through the process that I've just gone through now, and especially, leading into the holidays, there's going to be some downtime. There's going to be some some time that you're going to be able to just relax and think about your business a little bit more, that's the time you want to sit down and do a V2MOM. And once again, the V2MOM stands for vision, defining what you do, values, prioritized principles and beliefs that are most important about the vision. So in other words, your immutable laws, the things that you just will not cave on. Methods, how to get what you need to get done. The action steps, the actual steps you're going to initiate over the year to get the job done, to get your vision to become a reality. You're going to list the obstacles, the challenges, the problems, and the issues that you need to overcome to achieve your vision. And then the final one is measurement. You need to specify exactly the actual results to achieve so that you can track them along the way. And then you're going to go through and you're going to track them I would recommend on a monthly basis. Revisit this V2MOM, revisit your profitability analysis, and just track everything. Make sure that you're aware of what's going on. If you know your numbers, there's no reason why you can't make this a huge success. What I found was really quite interesting, that when I came back after a year and really took a look at the V2MOM, it gave me a sense of confidence. It gave me a sense that, you know what, I'm now working on my business. I'm not just working in my business. I really am working on the business. And I can see that I'm bringing on new clients that are really adding value, that are really getting value, that, you know, it's good relationships that I'm bringing on. And that makes me feel really good when I see the level of client and the quality of client that I'm bringing on. And I can trace those clients back to where did they come from? Were they referrals? Did they come from the marketing efforts? Well, you can now go back and say, well, if four of my top 10 clients are coming in from this particular marketing campaign, and they're becoming, and it's those I guess in the last 10 clients that came in, these are the top 4, and they all came from the same campaign. Guess what? You're going to go spend more time on that campaign. And if you've got another campaign which tends to be bringing in a lot of new clients, but you take a look and they're just saying, you know what, they're not the greatest clients, maybe you want to spend a little less time on that campaign. Or you want to tweak things a little bit. So all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, you want to get to the point where you're just working on your business quite a bit. You want to be able to manage your business from a top-down perspective. The problem is that we've never been taught how to do that. And these are methods that I use on a year-by-year basis. I'm just simply teaching you exactly what I do. These are methods that I use that I've found are just simply working really well for me. So, take advantage of it and get out there and build yourself a better business.
You've been listening to Scott E. Plaskett, a certified financial planner and industry veteran in the world of fee-based financial planning. Want free resources to help you build a better fee-based financial planning firm? Visit ilovefinancialplanning.com right now to register for Scott's Inner Circle email list, where you'll get front-of-the-line updates on the latest resources that are driving profits to Scott's fee-based financial planning practice. All of the resources are pulled directly from the highly acclaimed Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery Academy. Go now to ilovefinancialplanning.com. Build a better business and make more money with your fee-based financial planning practice today.